automation expands, right, for an organization,
Mm.
there's always this consideration on human element. And you mentioned a bit on this, which I want to unpack a bit more, as to how organizations should start thinking about any emerging new skills requirements, new roles, etc., to make automation not a just one-off project, but as a strategic capability for the organization, right? So, um, do you have any views on that? What kind of new skills and what kind of any specific roles that you think are emerging to make this as a strategic operational capability?
Yeah, and in fact, I'm going to broaden that a little bit because I mean I
Mhm.
think some of the technologies and the roles that have existed to date are still valid. Obviously, with AI coming in,
Mm,
what I'm seeing often in organizations, not everywhere, but this is probably the predominant model, is organizations are hiring, you know, an AI team to build out the new tools and capabilities, which is, you know, obviously, you know, there are skills that are required in that area, not necessarily, however, deep AI skills. When you're talking about things like Gen AI, you know, prompt engineering and things like that is a distinct skill in itself that, in some ways, is more akin to psychology than it is to
mm,
IT development. But I think the challenge that I'm seeing organizationally is those skills are often being isolated, and that is creating a couple of problems. Those teams at the end of the day still need to have an end result, which is some kind of business application. And if they are not integrated into that application build factory, then there's that disconnect that starts to happen between them. So keeping them closely integrated into that is important. And that's one of the things, for example, from a platform perspective, we've tried to do with our systems is the AI agent build is just part of the regular application build
mm,
platform so that teams can collaborate. But the other reason for that is I think not just collaborating from an IT perspective, but collaborating with the business is critical to address some of
mm,
those change concerns as well. And a lot of the AI capabilities that are um, focused on software lifecycle are really mostly just for developers. I mean, they're tools for developers to
yeah.
build code, document code, test code. They're all coding co-pilots. And I think one of the interesting capabilities that we are developing is the ability to quickly generate a requirements document and a full application that the business and IT can collaborate on. I think the more that your team that's doing agentic is having conversations with the business rather than going off to one side and doing things, the more collaborative it'll be and the faster you'll get to an end solution.
And one more element about human element, it will be good to discuss briefly, would be the whole the change management, particularly when it comes to the automation program execution and operationalizing this as a strategic capability, because um, people in general are resistant to change, as we all know, and with automation in particular, there is the potential risk of people building some anxiety about these changes, as to whether there would be potential impact to their careers, jobs, and so on and so forth. So, in a successful automation program, in my view, should also make sure that there is confidence is instilled within within their employees, that this is not about your roles, your jobs. It's about um, making our organization more productive, right? And giving you opportunities to discuss, to build something new. So, what's your take on this, as to how organizations should uh, address this kind of soft angle to these whole automation programs?
Yeah, look, again, I mean, I come from a technology platform perspective, but we do see this as a common barrier.
Yeah.
Um, one of the, I think there's a couple of ways that we've approached it. One is you look at the work that many employees do, and you can divide it into what are relatively low value and high value tasks.
Mm,
And really, I think emphasizing to the employee as well that the usually it's the low value tasks are the ones that, you know, automation is targeting. And that's to the benefit of both the organization and the employee. Usually the low value tasks are the boring, mundane ones that they don't really enjoy doing that much anyway. And the high value ones are the ones that, will bring them more satisfaction and, also improve the business. So having that kind of alignment on that messaging is also is critical. The other one, and this came from, for example, we use OutSystems internally to, for instance, the very first use case, which is a fairly common one, was around support ticket deflection using AI. And we're able to achieve a significant boost from about 10% to 40% of the tickets that were deflected. Now, what that meant for us wasn't in fact that we had to lay off any support engineers. It simply meant that we did not have to be hiring as we grew as well. So I think those conversations are obviously much better to have upfront, that this is the goal. We are aiming to improve our automation, but if we do that, it will make us far more efficient. We will grow faster, but we'll still need to keep the people because we'll have a higher volume of work coming in. And what we want you focusing on is that high value work, not the low value stuff. That's what we're going to target.